Good day, everyone. We are coming at you live from Straight Talk Consulting. We have the President and CEO, Kevin Holmes, here, and we're going to be talking today about a mentorship program for potential mentees. So, Kevin, let's start off at the beginning. So, give us a little bit of your background. Tell us about your education.
Well, I went to George Westinghouse Vocational High School where I learned my trade. I worked for several contractors before I landed my job for Department of Environmental Protection,
You
DEP.
said you learned a trade. What trade was that?
Electrical installation, I was an electrician
Oh, okay. And how long were you an electrician?
since high school, and then I worked for uh, Department of Environmental Protection. Did 25 years. I retired in September of 2020.
Oh, okay. And from there, what did you do after you retired?
Well, even while I was still working, I was investing in real estate. I bought my first property. I was 22 with my family. After that, 5 years later, I bought my home in Queens, Cambridge Heights. And then after that, I continued buying real estate from there on.
Hmm. What got you interested in real estate investing?
I always liked real estate as a young man, seeing have other landlords when I work in people's house, and the owner would, have rentals, and I always thought it was be a good source of income. And I was always a go-getter about making money, so I had no problem working, and me being handy. I thought that was a good recipe for me to invest in real estate for the future.
Hmm. Okay. So you mentioned you bought your first house at 22. How did you do that?
My mother, my brother, my sister-in-law, we all put our money, and my wife at the time, we all put our money together, and we bought from. I grew up in Ruddock Projects, and we moved from there. And then we bought a house in Queens, Jamaica, Queens. It was a two-family house, and my mother lived in the basement. My brother lived on the first floor, and I lived on the second floor.
Hmm. Okay. And then you mentioned you bought a house in Cambria Heights. How did that come to be?
Well, my great aunt was in a nursing home, and the house was deteriorating. She had a stepson, and he had got strung out on drugs and was kind of messing up the house. And so they were going to sell the house, and my aunt had mentioned it to my uncle and offered him the house. And I got wind of it. My mother told me, and I said I would like to buy the house.
Hmm. And what were you thinking? Were you going to live in the house, or was that going to be your very first investment?
I was thinking about living there. It was always a nice neighborhood. I actually have pictures as a kid living there. Um, when my aunt lived there, I remember have pictures of being in front of the house in the backyard. So it was always a nice neighborhood, Cambridge Heights. So I just thought about, as far as to take my family from where we were living, that we bought the house with the family, and take my family and have our own spot.
Hmm. Okay. And then what happened after that? How did you buy your first investment property?
Well, once I secured, my aunt had gave me a deal that I couldn't refuse. The house needed a lot of work, so we got the house appraised at the time. So she said to me that give you 2 years to fix up the house, and if you can't get a mortgage, then we would sell the house, and then whatever we got the house appraised for, you give me that, and then the rest you keep for yourself. So it was a win-win situation. So I was able to get a mortgage, less than 2 years, um, and at the time I was only making about $42,000. The house was 85,000, 80 was I think $85,000 at the time. So I was only able to get 75,000. So I owe my aunt 10,000. So bought the house, and I owed her the 10,000. So I finished doing the renovation. The house went up in value, and I refinanced, got more money out of the house, gave her the 10,000, and then I bought another property.
Hmm. So, how did you obtain that knowledge as far as refinancing and knowing how, I guess, money works?
Well, from a young man, 12 years old, I worked in a pizza shop, so I always understood of having money. I think over the years, working as a young man, always liked to have my own stuff, so I was very conscious of saving for a rainy day, as the old people would always tell you. So I was very conscious of that, and I would read a lot about real estate. I was always intrigued with real estate, so I would read up and educate myself. One of the things I always say to be successful is you need education, common sense, and courage. And I had common sense and courage and created my education.
Okay. So, you didn't have anyone to guide you in the right direction in terms of your quest in real estate investing. It was more a matter of you reading up on your own and kind of trial and error.
No, well, when you're in construction and work and you see other investors doing things, you're working in other people's house, so you always ask questions, about buying a house. And I would ask other contractors that would say, guys on the job would say that they own rental property. So it was had other mentors that wasn't family or anything, but just being out working in the construction. There's a lot of different people that you run into that you ask a lot of questions, and they were happy to share.
Oh, okay. So, let me ask you this. What do you think? I know that you've been investing for the past 30 years, you said?
Yeah.
So, what are some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're trying to get into investing?
Well, I always say a lot of times people, when they're looking to get an investment, one, their credit is not good, right? So people have bad credit. But the thing is, you can have good credit, but if you don't have the income, then that's going to be a problem, right? So I think, and then when you're starting to get into investment, you have to be very careful of the people that you kind of talk to, because it's always people telling you what you cannot do, right? So those are the same people that are not doing it. And I think it actually discouraged a lot of young investors that want to get into the business. And it happened to me. I mean, my own mother basically had told me when I bought another property, she said I was moving too fast. And not that my mother didn't want the best for me, I wouldn't say that. But what happens is people put their fears on you of what they wouldn't do. So you have to be very careful. There's a lot of negative, and people say, well, tenants don't pay this, that, and the other. And, I bought properties 20 years ago in New York. And yeah, it was that. You had problems with tenant. Any kind of business, you're going to have some kind of problem. So I think the advantage that I did have, because I was handy and know how to fix things. I mean, a lot of things I went to learn. I went to Home Depot class to learn how to do tile. I worked with my uncle doing plumbing work. So you have to be handy. That was really my secret weapon too, because I can fix a lot of things. So I saved myself a lot of money.
So it would be advantageous for potential investors to kind of take that route, learn as much as they can so they can do a lot of the repairs themselves.
Absolutely. That's what equity is very important. And that's why I was able to survive in this business, because I know how to do a lot of things when it comes to repairing a home.
Okay. And what is it that you think that people are missing when they get into real estate investing? Some of the things that they don't know. Let's say the top three things that they don't know that they really need to learn and perhaps get a mentor so that they can learn these things.
Well, because of my background with construction, right, I do videos now, and I go into a house and someone will send me a property, because we invest in Charlotte, North Carolina, we invest in Columbia, South Carolina. So somebody sent me a property and I'll do a walkthrough, because I was a licensed contractor here. My company was Home Improvement, and my electrical background, of course, and my uncle taught me how to do plumbing and stuff. So, and because of those experience, I'm able to go in the house and walk a house, and I can tell you exactly what's wrong with. We still get a home inspection because there's certain things that the naked eye is not going to see, but there's certain things I can see, especially like any If you see any structure damage in the house, I'll look at the electrical panel. You'll see if there's any leaks. You can see if there's galvanized pipes. There's just so many things that a person that doesn't have that experience is not going to know. So even if you get the home inspection, I think it's so important to have a mentor that actually doing it. You know, you get a lot of people talking about, okay, you can buy these properties. No one talks about the renovation costs. Okay, so I think it's just a misconception. Everybody thinks it's going to get rich just for real estate. I mean, I've been doing it a long time, and it's a 20-year investment, because 20 years ago rent was a different price. I mean, the cheapest price right now in New York, I mean, a 2-bedroom is $2,000. A 3-bedroom is almost $2,500 a month or more, depending in Queens. So so you got to have that staying power, right? So you need a mentor to kind of guide you. And even if you're buying a house and you get a home inspection, and that's when you get a home inspection, it's called your due diligence period. At that time, you negotiating the price of the house, because now the inspector, whatever I've seen and then the inspector seen, then you negotiate with the seller of what far as them dropping the price, and give you a credit and so forth. So it's so important to have someone that has actually experience to kind of guide you and to be able to call and ask any questions that you have.
So yeah, you brought up some really good points. So with your company, Straight Talk Consulting, you're offering these mentor programs. Just give me just a little snippet about what they can expect to get from your mentorship program.
I think it's important to have a mentor to guide you through your day in and day out, and even looking for property, how to negotiate a deal. Okay, know what you're looking for. Someone knowing far as the rents, how to discuss with the contractors, because I have the experience. Even if I'm in another state, I have an experience where if I have a mentor in another state that we're not investing, I will be able to tell them if they're getting ripped off, what the prices are, what stuff it actually costs. If you have no experience on, somebody's trying to charge you a lot for electrical, plumbing, carpentry, tile work, we do all of that stuff, and I can say no. I think it's a high price, so you have the mentor to be able to do that, and it's important too. Anytime, any book that you ever read, they always talk about location. So a lot of times people, they go on these websites and talking about, oh, these prices, the houses are cheap, but you got to look at the cash flow, what's coming in. I'm concerned about the cash flow. You can get and have all these properties, and you're getting $300-400 a month on a property. So I think it's important to teach my mentors how money works, and you got to think like the bank about how much money you're making on your money. So those are things with a mentor that we teach and guide them through. So it doesn't matter how much money you make, is what you do with your money you make. So you teach them principles about savings. I always say savings and sacrifice becomes an asset, right? So you have to train your mentors to think differently about their money.
Okay, well that's great. So now once they go to your website, they're going to be able to do what?
Well, what we do, we charge $150 a consultation. So with the consultation, we get some background about you. We see about your credit. We see what's coming in, what's going out. So this way, we can set you up to be able to put yourself in a situation to be able to save. And a lot of times, people don't even realize how much money they blow. So, and I'm not a financial advisor. I give people from my own experience, but it worked for me, right? And my background, I never went to college, right? And that's why I say the 3 principles of success is education, common sense, and courage. And I had the common sense and courage in creating my education. So I was able to accumulate a lot of property. I have property in South Carolina, I have property in North Carolina, and we have property here. So the proof is in the pudding of the things that I've done. And so when you have a mentor to be able to explain these things to them, makes them feel safe, and you guide them through. So they always have an anchor, somebody that's actually doing it and actually doing the investment and understand the construction side.
Okay, sounds good. So now all they have to do is go to straighttalkconsulting.com, where they'll be able to find more information and sign up for a free 30-minute consultation to find out more about your services and how you would be able to help them in their investment goals. Thank you so much for the time, Kevin.
No problem.